Well, the month of April 1897, people were reporting what we call mysterious airships, for the lack of a better name, all over the Midwest, from Michigan.
Would we call it UFOs now?
We would call it UFOs now, yes.
But this particular encounter was different from the others. One of these airships allegedly crashed into a large wooden windlass or windmill. That was the beginning.
Charlie Stevens saw this object coming in at 4 a.m. in the morning, and it came up and hit the windlass and destroyed it. And what Charlie Stevens was seeing from about 3 miles away down there. That flamed up, it exploded, and he could see the flames from that distance.
Today, the story still lives on with Bonnie Oates.
He got in 20 foot of this old well house out here, and he said, now right in here is where it happened. I said, well, that's where the well is. He said, there's a lot of twisted metal.
In a more sophisticated place or time, this bizarre incident might have attracted more attention. But this was an isolated farming community, and the commotion quickly died.
It would be the logical thing to do is say, well, let's clean up the mess, let's bury the thing and go on about our business. Not even realizing the value or the importance scientifically to the find that they had.
What did they find? Based on eyewitness accounts, investigator Hayden Hughes managed to create these composites of the ship's dead pilot. Most of the smashed ship was carted off as souvenirs, and at least one metal chunk was buried with the pilot. But a few pieces were tossed down a well near the crash. That might account for the grotesque ailment suffered by Bonnie Oates' husband, Brawley, who later died.
And what did he blame that on?
Radiation that got into the well water where the crash occurred in 1897.
Bonnie, what did your husband believe?
Well, he thought there's something somewhere, he didn't know what.
Although radiation levels around the crash site are normal, metal fragments may still remain.
What do you got there, Bonnie? What is that?
Oh, that's...
Bonnie saved some of the metal that she is convinced caused her husband's illness. Aerospace engineer John Schuessler recovered a sample back in 1973. He found the metal melted and resolidified around the limestone at the crash site.
It fits the contention that it came from an explosion where it was molten and was blown out and landed on limestone rock and contoured to the rock and resolidified. And that all fits with the story.
Other metallurgists concluded that in 1897, this substance simply did not exist on Earth.
First, they said, oh, this looks like a slug of something. And after a week or so, I said, hey, guys, where's my metal? And they said, well, it's kind of intriguing. We want to run a few more runs.
The metal proved to be a kind of aluminum, and it was impossible to make aluminum this pure in 1897. It would still be difficult today. The real key to this mystery lies beneath this giant oak tree. Legend says that this is where the alien pilot is buried. Local police say that whatever is buried here is going to remain here, undisturbed. For years, UFO researchers have been trying to get permission to exhume this grave. They made a formal request in the 1970s. That request might have been granted, but then someone decided not to wait.
Now, in 1973, someone came in and stole a little triangular tombstone off of the grave. And the following weekend, someone came in with a 3-inch pipe and drove it right down into the grave. And where it had been showing that metal was buried there, according to metal detectors, it was now gone. And so the local people call that grave robbing. Well, you could say that. Something was taken from that grave.
We are here live and waiting for your phone calls here at 737-4444. Indeed, this week we've brought you some incredible stories. You remember we showed you some mysterious video shot by a rural Carlisle couple. What was that? Our cameras went along on a UFO stakeout, and we met a surprising number of people living right here in Middle Tennessee who think they've been abducted by aliens. This woman and her son among them.
Is a face of one, and I'm making the eyes right now.
It's hard to explain what's really happening. On the phone now to answer your questions from Seguin, Texas, is Walter Andrus. He's an international director of MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network. And Mr. Andrus, you're positive this isn't a hoax.
When you say positive, the evidence is overwhelming that we have UFOs. There's no question about that.
Well, I want some folks to be able to talk to you here in Nashville. We have a caller here. What's your question?
I just think as a high school student, thought that, me and a friend of mine thought we saw something when we were out on the lake. And
Do you think it's real, though? You thought it was real?
Whatever it was real. When it was not moving in the manner of any plane, aircraft that I had ever seen or known of. And about the time it got around to us, our boat engine died.
And Mr. Andrus, you find that a lot of these descriptions are very similar. Isn't that correct?
Oh, yeah. And I think it's also very egotistical for us as humans to think that with all of the planets and moons and stars and everything there are that we can ever see, plus those that we can't, that we are the only intelligent life anywhere.
Let Mr. Andrus respond to this. What do you think?
I concur with the person's opinion, because we are just a little speck of sand in the wide, wide universe.
Well, what have you seen?
The sightings do repeat. We plug these into a computer, and we have 255 different fields we can measure, and you find that many of these are repetitive all over the world.
Right.
Coming from entirely people that may have read about them, may have read nothing whatsoever, especially people being interviewed in Africa and places like that.
We have another caller for you. Do you mind if I interrupt here? Go ahead, caller.
Yes, I was calling in reference to a thing that we've been seeing here in Centerville. Red and green flashing lights moving at speeds that even the jets that we see go by, they're not going that fast. And, we've watched them several nights in a row, and they move straight up and down, and they hover for long periods of time, and it's not like any other aircraft that we've ever seen.
Sound familiar, Mr. Andrus?
Do these objects move across the sky?
Yes, they do. They move vertical and horizontally.
Well, large distances, I mean.
Yes, at very large distances and at very rapid speeds. I've sat out on my porch and with my stopwatch looked at jets as they go across the skyline, and it takes them 2 to 3 minutes, where this object moves in about 15 seconds.
Do you think some of this may be military, Mr. Andrus? Thanks for the call.
What? No, it's pretty hard to say something that fast if his timing is correct, and we must assume it is, because he was doing the timing. I can't think of anything would meet that specification.
All right, another caller.
Yes, in January, I was downtown Nashville, headed north on 3rd Avenue. I guess it would be north. And this big round white object came down between the buildings and went right across in front of us and just absolutely just disappeared. And my friend sitting next to me also saw it. There's no way. It did not fall out of the sky. It came in a sideways direction. And I remember, I guess last night or night before last, there was another gentleman on TV here in Nashville saying that showing he had a picture of a round object. And I was just wondering if anybody else in that area around that time had seen anything like that.
Yeah.
And also, is this something common?
All right. Mr. Andrus?
We have received some reports from Nashville of helicopters over there, and that might, in flying between the buildings, the helicopter is about the only thing that could do that. I don't think UFOs would take that chance.
All right, another caller. Hello, you're on the air.
I would like to know why haven't our federal government revealed any type of information that they know about these UFO objects?
Good question.
Our government has taken a stance that there's nothing to UFOs. However, under the Freedom of Information Act, we have recovered 7,000 documents that have been declassified that shows that every military intelligence agency has been involved in the study of UFOs, reporting sightings, and so on. And every intelligence agency within our government proper has been involved since the 1947-1948 era, right up to the present day. These 7,000 documents have been released and declassified for release.
I don't mean to cut you off. I just want to get as many
that have never been released.
Okay, I just want to get as many callers in because I know people want to call and talk to you. Our next caller, hello.
Yes, I was just wondering, a couple years ago, you had a newscast on a black charred object in Spring Hill. I think Leo Loudenslager. Could that have been caused by alien of some sort?
Mr. Andrus, I know that's tough for you to comment. I guess that's a good question. Sometimes we think of UFOs as being mysterious. Is anything just blatantly physical that you've seen? Mr. Andrus.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
I'm unable to answer her question, but yes, the whole subject is mysterious. It's probably the greatest scientific enigma of the space age. That is the resolution of the UFO phenomenon.
Well, we probably hear a lot of hoaxes, though. I'm sure you have people calling you that these things can be explained.
Well, we find that after a thorough investigation of the raw reports we receive, that means going out and interviewing the people that had the sighting, go to the scene, try to determine what else it might have been. We find that 80 to 90% of these raw reports phoned to us can be explained as something mundane. It's a 10 to 20% residue that defies any earthly explanation, or we call the real UFOs.
Okay, we have 737-4444, another caller. Hello.
Yes, sir. I was wondering, is there any particular reason or any justification anyone can give as why none of these objects are being picked up by any type of radar device or any other type of military look-and-see type things that they have out there?
Are they stealth?
Yes, UFOs can be picked up on radar quite a bit of the time. They may have a stealth capability, as our stealth aircraft do, but for many years they've been picked up on radar. Jets have been sent out to chase them. So, yes, they are picked up on radar.
Okay, another caller. Hello.
I was wondering to ask Walter what he thought of the cattle mutilations in North Alabama. Are the UFOs involved in that?
Yes, they have been. Linda Moulton Howe has spent a lot of time down there in February and March of this year and has given several talks and shown pictures of the animals, and they have also some videotapes of the lights that have been seen in the area.
You know, I'm not sure this week we really answered any questions. I mean, it's still as big a mystery. When are we ever going to get an answer on this straight?
The only straight answers we're going to get are the ones that citizens and groups like the Mutual UFO Network systematically go out and obtain. And eventually the government will come back and release what they know, but it's going to be coming out gradually. When you lied to the public for 47 years about UFOs, it'd be very difficult for any president or any future president to admit the government has been lying to the public.
It'd be the end of their political career, I'm sure.
Yes, it would.
The Gulf Breeze case has been variously described as proof positive and outright fraud. There are claims of alien entities being seen, multiple UFO sightings, of ground traces, and of alien attacks on the witness. It has been a case that has set the UFO world on fire and has regrettably set many old friends at each other's throats as UFO researchers lined up in their respective corners with their respective views. Walt Andrus, International Director of the Mutual UFO Network, believes that the case represents alien visitation. Others, perhaps researcher Dr. Willie Smith, for example, has most prominently rejected the case as fraudulent. In the end, it is a photographic case, and research has centred on the photographs. We will not review the whole case here. Eventually it is likely to be the subject of another Bufora video, but we can look at the implications of the photography, and I spoke to Walt Andrus and asked him to explain his views.
Well, let's go back. We've had 4 different photo analysts that have worked on the pictures. We know the old-style Polaroid camera doesn't even have a model number on it. It's a Land Polaroid camera. And this is where you have to pull the film out, then develop it with time, 30 seconds to a minute. And that camera, you can make double exposure, triple exposures, even quadruple if you're so inclined. And Bruce McAfee showed Ed how to do this when he was doing down there on one of his investigations initially. So we don't question that for a moment. But the point is, Ed is not aware of it. There are a few people that accused him of using these shots like that to entertain the teenagers at high school parties there in his home. And he did made what they call ghost photos. In most cases, we've duplicated many of them, and simply reflection off of the glass in the playroom And when that flash comes back, it makes every picture is different with this effect. So there are people like Zan Overall, and Willie Smith claims he knew how to make double exposures years ago, and because until Bruce Maccabee pointed out how simple it was to do, then Willie Smith jumped on it. We have to take those pictures we admit could be done by double exposure. If you go into a studio, photograph them out against a black backdrop, don't pull your film out. Then step outside and try to center this picture, this object in a scene, and take another picture and pull it out, and you have your double exposure. Right. That's simple to do. There's no evidence that Ed knew how to do that until Bruce showed him. However, we didn't stop there. We sent a Nimzo 3D camera from San Antonio down there, delivered it to Don Ware, who delivered it to Ed. This camera was sealed in wax on the Nimzo 3D camera has 4 lenses. Each time you take a shot, you're getting 4 different images on 2 sets of 35 millimeters side by side. And of course, the outside lenses give you the depth perception. The 2 inside lenses won't show much depth.
What controls were put on the issue of the camera to Ed?
We shipped this camera down there. First we did to control it. We never had 2 people always in control of the camera. So he had no chance. But first, loaded the camera in San Antonio, and Tom Dooley, our state director for Texas, and also our corporate secretary, MUFON, made one picture off his computer screen with his signature and what it was. That was the first frame. Second frame made sure the film was indeed rolling into the canister. And then he took the back and put wax around the whole back of the camera and took his Navy ones and stuck into the wax. Now, there's no way that that camera will take double exposures. We shipped that camera down to Ed. Bruce Maccabee was there at the time, and 12 days before that had been the longest period of time they'd gone without making a photograph. 16 days passed, and Ed had felt the pressure that, hey, wait a minute, these people are going to be sure now I'm hoaxing these pictures because I've got this sealed camera. So he and Francis started going out to Shoreline Park. In other words, the first time they've actively were seeking something before they were trying to get out of their lives because it disrupted the whole family for 6 months. They didn't know if they get a night's sleep or not. When something like that happens during the night, you can't even go back to sleep. And it became miserable. It was even affecting his work, taking time away from, he's a very successful building contractor, building homes in the area. So they went out to, heard Don Ware give a talk in Gulf Breeze on UFOs, and they said, well, let's go out tonight. And nothing happened. They went out the following night, and the third night, on Friday night, yes, they were in Shoreline Park, just sitting at a picnic bench, and when they saw an object coming in from the Gulf of Mexico, flying right toward Pensacola, with many, many lights. It's hard to say whether it's 50 or 100 small lights, and then a couple of real large ones on the side. And Ed figured, when we told him to shoot, he ran out of film. So as this object moved in off the Gulf, he just started following it and just kept shooting until he used up all, there were only 10 exposures left because you're getting 4 using 2 each time you shoot. That was the end, but it got that many shots. Analyzing that picture, well, first Frances said it was real close. She had her contact lenses on, and she said at a distance things are blurred. Ed was looking through the little viewfinder in this small camera, and he looks like a big mother, jokingly. It had so many lights on it. Actually, when Bruce Maccabee did the analysis, the 3D analysis, it was about 2.8 feet long, or just about a yard long. That's how bigger it was. And which is entirely different than the objects he had been photographing before, which looked like a big bowl with numerous lights, different arrangements on it. So when that happened, 83 feet away, it proved it wasn't a little Japanese lantern behind the pool, because it was that distance and we knew the size. So Bruce Maccabee instructed Ed how to build a stereo camera so he can separate those lenses at greater distance and be more specific in computing the distance and the size of the object. Build in a calibrating rod 48.5 inches from both cameras. He said, you've got, Ed went out and bought, as soon as Bruce showed him how you could take double exposure, he went out and bought a new Polaroid 600 LMS camera, and so he wasn't being accused of making double exposures. He bought the camera on March 6th, and we have the sales receipt, because we have to document everything in a case of this nature. That's just the way MUFON works. On March the 7th, he got a shot of it right in his backyard, over the schoolyard behind his home, of one of these craft similar to what he'd seen before, with a big orange ring, light on the bottom side, light up on the top. So, hey, this is good. We had put the Polaroid engineers to work on it. How can you take a double exposure with a new 600 LMS Polaroid? Because the film comes in a little metal pack, and you would have to cut the foil out and go in there. And it took the engineers 2.5 months to figure out a way of dismantling the camera, making it inoperative, unload it, make your picture, and repackage it and put it back in the camera. But Ed was so brilliant that he figured that all on one day, from March 6th to the evening of March 7th. So that gives a lot more credibility to the gentleman in making the pictures.